Hey folks, and welcome to the Truck King YouTube channel. You probably already know the truck on my left. That is the brand new 2022 Ford Maverick. Well, one of the most common questions we get about the Maverick is, how does it compare to small trucks from the past? So we've brought one along to take a look. That is a 2003 Ford Ranger Edge, and in this video, we're gonna compare them. Let's start by talking about the engine. So powering this Ford Ranger is a 3-liter V6, naturally aspirated. Now it's making 154 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. And that is definitely something that has changed dramatically. Smaller engines today make a lot more power. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is sent through a 4-speed automatic. Now over here on the Maverick, we have a smaller engine. That's just a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, but it is making 250 horsepower and a little over 270 pound-feet of torque. So yes, engines today are much smaller, but they're packing a larger punch. And this thing is sending its power through an 8-speed auto. Next up, we have to talk about the overall size of these two trucks, because I really do believe that's been one of the big changes from back then until now. So you can see that this Ford Ranger, it still prioritizes having a larger bed and a smaller cab. When this truck was being built, that was very common. Crew cabs were around, but they were still kind of growing in popularity. Now today, we get over here to the Maverick. Ford says we need a small truck again, but now we are prioritizing back seat space. So you can see from this shot exactly how much more cab the Maverick has than the Ranger. Then that's what's frankly changed between then and now. Today, people want a truck that can be a truck but also haul their family. They want one vehicle to do it all, and to be able to do that, Ford said, here's a truck, it can fit all of your family, but you're gonna have to live with that smaller bed. And you know what, let's head out back now and we'll talk about those bed sizes. Let's take a closer look at these two beds now to see how they compare. And first of all, I brought my handy dandy tape measure to see how big the bed is here in this Ford Ranger. So first, let's do the length right up to the bed wall. You're talking about 6 feet. This is a 6-foot bed without the tailgate down. And then if I measure between the wheel wells, and you've already seen, this is a step side truck, so you're not getting the overall width, but between the wheel wells, this is gonna be the same measurement as a non-step side. Here we're talking about, basically 41 inches. Basically 41 inches, but it's really the length here that makes this so usable. Plus, the owner of this truck, our friend Claire, he's got a nice cap on here, and you can get a cap for the Maverick, that should be mentioned, but I think that cap looks really nice, and it does help you to keep all your stuff nice and secure. So now let's look at the bed over here on the Ford, and the first thing we'll do is the length. And right here, you're talking about a little bit over 4.5 feet. So yes, the length is a big difference. You're getting a lot more length out of that old Ranger than here on the Maverick. But what about the width? Well, between the wheel wells, we're talking about just about 43 inches. So actually, the Maverick is a hair wider than that old Ranger is. Still, overall, I feel like that bed over there, just because of that length, is gonna end up being a little bit more usable. And once again, this is a big difference. Now let's look at the back seats, because that's another big difference between these trucks. So here in the Ranger, they obviously did not prioritize back seat space. Of course, it has suicide doors, these rear hinge doors. This has also totally gone away in the truck world. And you can see these cute little jump seats back here. Normally I would try to jam myself in to prove that I could fit. I straight up cannot fit, so I'm not gonna try. But these are basically just for kids. There's no chance you're getting an adult in there and actually sitting comfortably, which over here on the Maverick, you totally can do. And this is where Ford was really paying attention, because this is what people are asking for. Take a look. Again, I stand at about 6'2". And this is my dad's seating position, another big guy. Now I am a little bit tight in here, but I fit. I have just enough headroom. Sure, my knees are touching the seat, could be moved forward. The most important part is this is a small truck that can haul 4 full-size people in comfort. And I think that's, really the crux of the difference between that old Ranger and this Maverick. Well, folks, here we are driving the old 2003 Ford Ranger. And I mean, when this truck came out, I didn't have a license, so I've never driven anything like this. Dad's driven plenty of trucks like this. So I mean, first, maybe most obvious difference, Dad, rear-wheel drive. This truck is only two-wheel drive, and of course it is rear-wheel drive, like most trucks are. The Maverick, the one we have today, is all-wheel drive, granted, but you can get a two-wheel drive Maverick. Of course, it is front-wheel drive. So there's another big difference. Back in the day, there was no front-wheel drive trucks, right? But now that is certainly not the case.
No, and most stuff was rear-wheel drive. Like a lot of guys my age will remember that four-wheel drive was a very expensive option.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that's changed. It's so much more common. And in fact, in Canada, you get that 2-liter EcoBoost, you have to get all-wheel drive. Ford Canada doesn't give
exactly.
you a choice.
And what's kind of cool when you look at the images of this old Ranger, it looks four-wheel drive-ish because that's what customers wanted. They couldn't afford the four-wheel drive, but they wanted it a little bit lifted, a little bit of a knobby tire, and Ford gave them that so that they could pretend they had four-wheel drive.
So then the other immediate difference that I notice is, again, the size. Now, width-wise, we're a little bit tighter in here, right? We're touching.
More so than the Maverick.
Yeah, and you brought this up. The cab here really tapers in at the top corners, and I have just enough headroom, but I touch this hump here in the middle. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just straight up not as comfortable. The Maverick, they really went out of their way to make sure that the interior maximizes that space so even big fellas can fit in there comfortably.
Yeah, despite the fact that, like I said, these trucks appear to be very much the same size, it's this cab shape minimizes this room, particularly the shoulder room here.
Yeah, definitely interesting differences. Now, it's a snowy day today, and it's a two-wheel drive truck, so I can't really lay into it because all that does is spin the back end. However, I will make the point that this doesn't feel underpowered. I'm not driving around going, oh, gross, only 150 horsepower. That's something that's definitely changed these days. We have a taste for more horsepower. I don't know, I guess it was just driven by people wanted it. I don't find myself missing it, not tooling around here day to day. And with that point in mind, let me now tell you that this truck has a 4,100 pound tow rating. That's the same as the Maverick. The Maverick can do $4,000 too. So when it comes to work, yeah, this truck, you know, was rated the same and might not feel quite as good power-wise, but I don't know. What's your takeaway on that, getting the more power out of the Maverick?
Well, you know, let's say the technology has advanced.
Sure.
So we're getting more power out of smaller engines. You know what? If you can do it, great. However, was this truck underpowered? No, it wasn't. It did a good job. And the one thing about it, I used to like rear-wheel drive trucks on a day like today because you get to go around all the corners sideways.
Yeah, it is actually pretty fun. Another thing I noticed sitting here, it feels like we have more ground clearance, a little bit more ride height. Feel like I'm sitting up taller. I know I am, actually. You can just tell by looking at the truck side by side. So yeah, the Maverick definitely not prioritizing ride height or ground clearance really whatsoever. And one other thing I noticed, Ed, this truck has tow hooks in the front. The Maverick does not. So back in the day, I think they were also thinking you were probably going to get stuck.
Oh, this thing would have got stuck all the time, trust me.
All right, folks, now we're going to go drive the Maverick, and we'll talk to you about the differences. And before we go, I'll give one more shout out to Claire, our friend who owns this little Ranger. And why don't we talk to him now, and he can kind of give you a little bit more of the story on this truck.
I can't remember how long I've had it. It's a 2003. Seems like we've had it forever. I bought it as a sitter when we were doing road tests and so forth for various outlets. We'd need a vehicle to get to Toronto to pick up the car and leave something down there. And I thought, hey, it was under 10 grand and fit the bill. Well, it's more than fit the bill. And we just love it. It's handy for all kinds of stuff around this, you know, a suburban home. You know, whether you're picking up peat moss or taking, you know, refuge to the recycling depot or whatever, it's a handy thing.
Nice. And how about maintenance? What have you done to keep the Ranger going? Anything major or?
Touch wood, but never had a major problem. You know, minor stuff here and there. We've had it oil guarded with crown rust proofing every year, which I think has done a lot to preserve it. But the engine keeps running fine, and just, you know, the odd tweak now and then. Cool. Nothing major.
So then finally, as a Ranger owner, you've seen the new Maverick today. What's your kind of overall thoughts on the Maverick? Does that look like something that could replace your old Ranger here?
It's the perfect size. I love the new Ranger, but it's just, again, it's too big for what I'm looking for. The Maverick, perfect. I'd take it in a heartbeat.
And now, folks, here we are driving in the Maverick. And I think the biggest differences that I kind of feel right off the bat, Dad, are kind of general differences between modern vehicles and older vehicles. And I'll tell you what I mean. Really, it's quiet in here. It's comfortable. You know, this thing really does just ride smooth, where the Ranger was a little more, you know, body roll and you felt everything.
Leaf spring suspension.
Sure, fair enough. And yeah, just overall refined. I think that's the word I come away with. Driving this Maverick, it feels refined, it feels modern, and obviously getting out of the Ranger, yeah, it just feels old and loud and creaky and groany, and that's like, and maybe that was the experience of an old truck, right? That was probably much more normalized at the time.
You would think about it because that was normal.
True, exactly.
All right.
So that's really that's the one difference. But then the other one is the size in here. I think that's the most surprising thing we're coming away with. They've really designed this Maverick to maximize this space. We're not even touching. We have plenty of space, plenty of legroom, headroom, the whole deal. So yeah, you know, you can just see that when they put the Maverick together, passenger comfort was one of, if not the most important consideration, and that's definitely not true of the Ranger.
No, and that's how things change over time. In other words, the engineers have a focus. And with that original Ranger, the focus was still on cargo. It was still on the back of the truck. Sure, you had a little cabin, you got two people in there, but it was still meant to have a very usable bed, because they figured they couldn't see anybody buying that who wasn't going to be hauling regularly. Maverick is different, and this is very much what's the new attitude. Family. You got your wife, you got your kids, you got the dog. That's what this truck is about.
So the Maverick is really combining the best thing about that Ranger, which was its size, its small size,
yep,
with the best thing about today's modern vehicles, which is all that stuff we talked about, being quiet and comfortable. And we've said this before, the funny thing about the Maverick is that Ford created its own problem by making the Ranger and the F-150 so big, but now they have absolutely answered that problem with the Maverick, and we're already seeing that this thing is sold out. It's very hard to come by at dealerships. So far the response has been quite strong to this little truck, and yeah, after today's comparison, I can absolutely see why.
Yep, absolutely, and you can see the direction that we're headed in. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again, I'm excited to see what GM and Ram are going to do.
Absolutely. Well, Dad, I think we've gotten to the end of this video. So now, of course, I want to hear what you guys think. Please weigh in. Let me know what you think about this Maverick as it compares to the Ranger. Hey, did you own an old Ranger? Let us know your experiences with it. And then, as always, don't forget to go below, hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of the channel, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.